Hi everybody, I wanted to walk you through the strategy when you have a make or buy problem. How do you know if you have a make or buy problem? There's a vendor involved, and the vendor is offering to do something for a price. There's often a lot of other distracting information in there, but the key is that you have a vendor offering to do something for you for a price. And that's usually the clearest part of it. The presumption in a make or buy is that this decision will not change fixed cost because you're just having a vendor do something for you. So you're outsourcing some bit of your operations to them. And so that won't change the rent or the property taxes or the fixed overhead stuff. If it will change fixed costs, they have to tell you in the problem. So let's look at this example here. You need 3,000 sub-assemblies. The vendor can make it for $6. You have to pull that out of the problem from the story. What's the volume and what's the price the vendor's charging you? Then the strategy is to compare what you'd have to pay the vendor to the cost that would go away if you pay the vendor. So not all costs are going to go away. Generally, fixed costs do not go away just because you have the 3,000 sub-assemblies made somewhere else. But if it does go away, they have to tell you. Here they do tell you that if the vendor makes all 3,000, you can get rid of 4,000 of the 15,000 fixed cost here. Okay, well that's unique to this particular setup. It's not presumed. If they're silent, you would assume the 15,000 doesn't change. So that does change. So if you're not going to make these, you do not need that material. You do not need that $1.20 times 3,000. You do not need the direct labor to put it together because you're not putting it together. The vendor is. So that will be saved. The variable overhead, you don't need the cleaning and the staples and the glue and whatever else is in there because you're not making it. The fixed cost, except for the 4,000, is not going away. So let's make a little visual here. So per unit, you're going to not pay the $4.50, which is the direct material plus the direct labor plus the variable overhead. That's going away. You won't do those if you outsource. You also will save 4,000. So 4,000 of fixed costs is going away. The total costs that are going away are the 17,500. You pay the vendor 18,000. So you're better off making it. In other words, you will save 17,500 if you make it, but you've got to turn around and pay 18,000 for the vendor to make it. So in terms of the way your author may set up a question, they're going to ask for the financial advantage or disadvantage of one of these decisions. If you let the vendor make it, what's the financial advantage or disadvantage? If the vendor makes it, you're going to be $500 worse off. So that would be a $500 disadvantage. There may be qualitative reasons to let a vendor do it or to not let a vendor do it. For instance, Coca-Cola is not going to outsource making the syrup. That's a secret formula in a vault in Atlanta, and only a very few people on the planet ever gets their hands on that because that's their critical advantage, is that they have the recipe to make it taste like Coke and not Pepsi and not something else, and that's heavily guarded. So they will not, even if they have to pay a lot more than if somebody else made it, they're not going to outsource that syrup because they don't want to share the secret. There may be definite reasons to outsource it, even if it costs more to have the vendor do it. So let's say maybe it's very dangerous to make this thing. Maybe the fumes are terrible and workers don't like it and you have a lot of turnover. So let the vendor do it. Oh yeah, it'll cost you another $400, but you'll calm down turnover and everybody will be happier and more productive. So that's a qualitative reason to possibly do it. Maybe the vendor's better at it than you are, so you'll have fewer returns because they do that all day long and they have a niche in that area and they're much better. It could be that you want a vendor to do it so that you have a trained vendor that's good at it for your peak period. So you give them some volume all year long so they stay current in it, and then during your peak period they handle that overload so you don't have to rent additional space and gear up. Okay, so when the advantage or disadvantage between two options is very small, often those qualitative factors decide the decision. In this particular chapter, they're mostly just going to be looking for the financial advantage or disadvantage, except when we have a theory question or when we want to talk about how does this play out in the field after you graduate. When two alternatives are very close together economically, often you'll think in terms of, and the decision will swing based on some of these qualitative factors. Well, yeah, I know it'll cost us a couple pennies more, but wouldn't it be nice to have a vendor on the ready for surprises to be able to pick up an order and get that done? Yeah, that would be. If it was a really, really big financial difference, maybe you won't do that. So when the financial advantage and disadvantage is close together, sometimes some of these other things, well, people complain about the smell, whatever it is. All right, so there is your first of 5 differential analysis or special decisions that most firms deal with. So this is make or buy, a vendor in the story willing to do something for you for a fee. The strategy is compare what you have to pay the vendor with what you will save if you don't have to make it. Let me know if you have questions.